The stars were cold and endless, stretching across the black sea of space. A single alien ship drifted in the void, its silver hull scarred and broken. The crew inside whispered in fear. Their enemy was hunting them, and their fuel was almost gone. Every shadow in the stars felt like death waiting to strike. On the command deck, Captain Luro stared at the flickering screen. His people were tired, their faces pale under the dim lights. Sparks fell from broken wires, and the hum of the engines was weak. They had no weapons strong enough to fight back. They had no allies close enough to answer. They were alone. "Captain," said First Officer Rahl with a shaking voice, "if we do not send a call, we will all die here." Luro's hands tightened on the console. His black eyes were heavy with despair. "If we send a signal, anyone could hear us," he said. "Our enemies, raiders, or worse." The word worse hung in the air like poison. Everyone on the deck knew what it meant. There were stories in the galaxy. Stories of deathworlders. Creatures born on a savage planet called Earth. Beings who could survive fire, ice, and war. Beings who did not fear death. The humans. No one ever wanted to call them, but the crew had no choice. The captain stood. His voice was low but firm. "Send it. An SOS. Whoever hears it, may the stars protect us." The crew moved quickly. Their fingers tapped the controls, sending a desperate signal into the deep black. It was a cry for help, a cry that spread across the galaxy, carried by invisible waves of energy. For a long moment, nothing happened. The crew stared at the screens, their hearts racing. The only sound was the broken hum of the dying ship. They waited, hoping, praying. Then the signal returned. A strange static filled the speakers, deep, heavy, like thunder trapped inside a machine. Lights flickered on the console. The crew leaned closer. "Something is answering," whispered Rahl. Captain Luro's chest tightened. "Who is it?" The static grew louder, shaking the deck. Then a voice came through. It was deep, calm, and powerful. The crew froze. "Signal received," the voice said. The alien crew stared at one another. This voice was not soft or kind. It was not a voice of mercy. It was the voice of a predator. The captain tried to speak. "This is Captain Luro of the Veyron people. We are under attack. We request aid. Please, we are unarmed." The silence that followed was heavy. The crew held their breath. Finally, the voice answered. "Coordinates locked. Assistance." On the way, the signal cut. Every alien on the deck shivered. The voice had not said who they were. It had not asked what kind of help was needed. It had simply promised assistance. The captain sank into his chair. His hands trembled. "What have we done?" he whispered. Hours passed. The alien ship drifted in silence. The crew tried to rest, but fear kept them awake. Every shadow in the starfield seemed alive. Every sound made them jump. Then the stars shifted. Something massive was coming. The sensors screamed. A dark shape appeared in the distance, growing larger and larger. At first the crew thought it was a planet. But it moved too fast, too smooth. It was a ship, a warship. It filled the screen, blotting out the stars behind it. Its surface was black and armored, covered in glowing orange windows, like the eyes of a beast. 4 enormous thrusters burned with fire, each one large enough to swallow their tiny vessel whole. The alien crew fell silent. Their eyes were wide with terror. That is no ally," whispered one of the crew. The ship kept coming, its engines roaring through the void. The closer it came, the more detail they saw. Cannons, turrets, and weapons lined its hull. It was not a ship made for peace. It was a ship made for war. The bridge filled with a low hum. A new signal came through, forcing the speakers to shake. "This is the human battleship Titan. You called for help." The crew froze. The word human sent ice into their hearts. The stories were true. The Deathworlders had come. The captain swallowed hard. His throat felt dry as stone. He tried to answer, but his voice broke. We are grateful," he said weakly. There was no reply. The massive human warship moved closer, stopping just beyond their windows. Its size made their vessel look like a child's toy. The glowing thrusters lit up the alien ship in burning light. On the bridge, the crew sat in silence, waiting. Their hearts pounded in fear. They had asked for help, and the humans had answered. But what kind of help would the Death Worlders bring? The question hung in the air, heavy and sharp, as the alien crew stared into the glowing eyes of the most dangerous ship they had ever seen. And for the first time, they wished they had stayed silent. The alien crew sat frozen on their bridge. Before them, the human warship Titan filled the stars. It was a mountain of steel and fire, alive with glowing lines of energy. Its shadow stretched across their small vessel, blocking out the stars. No one spoke. No one breathed. They only stared. The humans had answered the call. But the question haunted every mind on the ship. Was this salvation or the end? Captain Luro gripped the edge of his chair. His dark eyes reflected the burning thrusters outside. His people whispered around him, but he silenced them with one raised hand. "Wait," he said softly. "Let us see what they will do." The alien vessel shook as a deep signal came through the speakers. The same voice, colder than ice, filled the bridge. "Varen vessel, you are within range. Hold position." The voice was not a request. It was a command. First Officer Ra'al leaned closer to the captain. His hands trembled. "Captain." "They speak as if we are theirs already." Captain Luro did not answer. His chest was tight, his mind racing. He had sent the SOS. He had called these beings here. Now his crew looked to him for hope. But he felt only dread. Outside, the Titan turned slowly, revealing the full horror of its design. Rows of weapon batteries glowed with a dull red light. Gigantic cannons stretched along its armored wings. The hull was thick, scarred from battles, yet unbroken. It was a predator that had survived countless wars. The alien crew could not look away. One of them whispered, "That ship. It was built to end worlds." A sudden crackle filled the air as the humans sent another transmission. "Identify threat." The aliens blinked in confusion. Captain Luro pressed a button on the console, his voice shaking. "We are not the threat. Our enemy pursues us. They will be here soon." The line went silent. The human ship made no reply. For a moment, the alien crew dared to hope that perhaps the humans had turned away. But then the Titan's engines roared. Fire blazed brighter, shaking the space around them. The human warship did not leave. It moved closer. Every alien on the bridge pressed back against their chairs. The Titan stopped just outside their windows, close enough for them to see the scars along its hull, the markings of old battles, and then lights. Dozens of orange lights came alive across the ship's surface. Windows, sensors, weapons. They flared to life, like the eyes of a monster waking from its sleep. The alien crew held their breath. Captain Luro whispered to himself, "What kind of creatures build such things?" As if hearing his fear, the human voice returned. "Enemy vessels approaching. You will remain silent. We will engage." The bridge filled with silence. Every Varen froze. Their own scanners now showed what the humans already knew. Shapes were moving fast in the distance. Their hunters had found them. The pursuing fleet was near. "They are coming," whispered Ra'al. "Do we tell the humans how strong they are? How many ships there are?" The captain shook his head. "Do you think it matters? Look at them. They already know." On the screen, the approaching fleet grew closer. Sharp, cruel vessels armed for the kill. The aliens had been running from them for weeks. They knew their enemy's strength, and they knew they could not fight them. But the humans did not move with fear. The Titan turned slowly, facing the incoming fleet. Its enormous wings shifted, cannons glowing brighter. The air on the alien bridge vibrated with the rising energy from the human ship. It was like standing next to a storm ready to break. "Power levels rising," said one of the crew, his voice shaking. "Their weapons, they are beyond anything I have ever seen." The captain closed his eyes. His heart pounded. He remembered the stories told in the dark corners of space, the Death Worlders, the savage humans, creatures who fought until there was nothing left to fight. And now he saw the truth. The enemy fleet roared into range. Dozens of ships, their weapons glowing, engines burning. They came hungry for blood, ready to crush the small Varen vessel once and for all. But they had not expected the Titan. The human ship spoke once more, calm and final. "Engaging." The alien crew's blood ran cold. The stars lit up. The Titan unleashed its fury. The void shook with fire. The human warship Titan opened its wings like a predator spreading claws. In one breath, the black silence of space was torn apart by light. Cannons thundered. Beams of white and orange energy cut through the darkness. And missiles streaked like falling stars. The pursuing fleet never had a chance. The first wave of enemy ships exploded instantly, torn apart as if they were made of paper. Shockwaves rolled across the void, scattering debris and flames. The Titan did not stop. It moved forward, slow and steady, unleashing strike after strike. On the Veyran bridge, the crew clung to their seats in disbelief. Their eyes were wide, reflecting the storm outside. The enemies they had feared for weeks, the hunters who had chased them across systems, were being destroyed in seconds. "Impossible," whispered Raal. His voice trembled. One ship is doing this." Captain Luro's throat was dry. His hands were shaking as he stared at the screen. He had seen many battles in his life, but nothing like this. "This is not war," he whispered. "This is slaughter." The human ship fired again. Enemy cruisers tried to scatter, but every move they made was answered by burning missiles. A battleship twice the size of the Veyran vessel tried to fire back, but its weapons never had time to ignite. A single pulse from the Titan cut it clean in half. The alien crew flinched as the screen filled with fire. Then, silence. The last enemy ship exploded, its pieces spinning away into the void. The wreckage floated like broken bones across the black sea of stars. The Veyran crew sat frozen. Their enemy was gone. The danger was over. Yet none of them cheered. None of them felt safe. They only stared at the Titan. The human ship had stopped firing. Its cannons cooled, glowing like embers. Its thrusters burned low. It hung in space, silent and watching. The aliens felt the weight of its gaze, though no eyes could be seen. Then the speakers crackled again. The human voice returned, threat eliminated. The words were calm. Too calm. The crew shivered. Their own captain forced himself to speak. His voice was low, shaking. "This is Captain Luro of the Veyran vessel Karesh. We thank you. Without your help, we would have been destroyed." For a long moment there was no reply. The silence pressed down on them like gravity. Then the voice answered. "You called for help." We answered. The tone was not warm, not friendly. It was like a judge declaring a sentence. Captain Luro swallowed hard. "Yes," he said carefully. "You saved us. We owe you our lives." Again silence. The crew looked at one another. Some whispered, others kept their heads down. Rahal leaned close to his captain and whispered, "They do not speak like allies. They speak like rulers." Before the captain could reply, the human voice spoke again. "Your enemy is destroyed. But know this, we did not come for you. We came because you called." The words struck like knives. The captain forced himself to ask, "And now, what will you do with us?" The bridge fell silent. Every alien leaned forward, waiting for the answer. Their hearts pounded, their chests heavy. Finally, the humans replied, "You will remain where you are. A boarding team will be sent," the alien crew gasped. "A boarding team? On their ship?" Ral stood, panic in his voice. "Captain, we cannot allow this. If humans step foot on this vessel, we will never be free again." Luro raised a hand, silencing him. He could feel the fear in the crew, but he knew they had no choice. They could not resist the Titan. Their ship was broken, weak, unarmed. To defy humans now would be suicide. He turned back to the console, forcing his voice to remain steady. "We will comply." The response was short, cold, good. Moments later, the alien crew saw small shapes detach from the Titan. Dark shuttles, armed and glowing with thrusters, moved toward their fragile vessel. Each one carried humans, the bridge filled with quiet whispers. What do they want? Why board us? We are no threat. Perhaps they came to finish us themselves. Captain Luro stood tall, though fear coiled in his stomach. "Steady yourselves," he ordered. "We face Deathworlders now. We must not show weakness." The shuttles drew closer. The alien crew stared at the screens as the humans approached. The cold truth settled over them like ice. They had sent an SOS. They had begged for help. And now, the most dangerous beings in the galaxy were stepping onto their ship. The first human shuttle connected with the airlock. The sound echoed through the corridors, heavy, final. The bridge lights flickered as the docking clamps locked into place. The crew held their breath. A hiss of air, a metallic clang. The airlock opened, and for the first time in Veyron history, humans entered their ship. The airlock door groaned as it slid open. A cold hiss of pressure filled the alien ship's corridor. The crew on the bridge leaned closer to the screens that showed the docking area. Their hearts pounded in fear. Figures stepped through the doorway. Humans, they were taller than most Veyrons, broad-shouldered and built like stone. Heavy armor covered their bodies, black and grey with glowing blue lines running across the plates. Helmets hid their faces, but their movements were confident, precise, dangerous. Each human carried a weapon larger than a Veyron's arm, humming with energy. The alien crew whispered in terror, "Death Worlders." Look at them. So calm, so cold. They walk as if they own the ship already. On the bridge, Captain Luro forced himself to stand tall. His voice was steady, though fear twisted in his chest. "They are aboard," he said. "We must face them." First Officer Raal shook his head quickly. "Captain, you know the stories. If we anger them, they will kill us all. If we trust them, they may still kill us. We cannot win." The captain met his officer's eyes. "We cannot run. We cannot hide. We must meet them with respect. That is all we have left." Moments later, the doors to the bridge slid open. The humans entered. Their footsteps were heavy, echoing through the chamber. 3 soldiers walked in first, weapons ready, their helmets glowing faintly. Behind them came another figure. This one wore no helmet, a human face. The crew froze at the sight. The man was pale, with sharp eyes that looked like fire trapped in ice. His jaw was strong, his gaze unwavering. He wore the same black armor, but without the helmet, he seemed even more dangerous. He stepped forward, looking over the alien crew as if measuring their worth. Finally, his eyes fixed on Captain Luro. "You are the commander?" the human asked. His voice was deep, steady, the same one that had spoken over the comms. Captain Luro bowed his head slightly. "Yes, I am Captain Luro of the vessel Koresh. These are my people. You have saved us from destruction. We are in your debt." The human studied him in silence. His eyes did not blink. For a moment, the aliens thought he might draw his weapon. Then he nodded once. "I am Commander Hale of the battleship Titan," he said. "Your debt is noted." The way he said it made the alien crew shiver. Debt was not a kindness. It was a chain. Raal whispered under his breath. "We are already prisoners." But before anyone could answer, the ship's alarms blared. Red lights flashed across the bridge. The screens lit up with new signals. "Incoming ships!" cried one of the Veyron crew. "More enemies!" The captain spun to the display. His blood went cold. The first fleet had only been the hunters. Now the true danger arrived. Dozens of ships appeared on the edge of the scanners, larger and more powerful than the first. Their engines burned bright, their weapons already charged. It was a war fleet, not a raiding party. The crew gasped in horror. "We cannot survive this," Raal said, his voice breaking. "Not even with the humans." "It is too many." Commander Hale turned to the screens. His expression did not change. He looked at the incoming fleet with the same calm as one would look at a passing storm. "How long?" he asked. The alien crew hesitated. One of them stammered, "Minutes. Less than 10. Hale tapped a device on his arm. "Titan, prepare for engagement." The alien crew stared. Did the human truly believe one ship could fight so many? "You don't understand," Captain Luro said quickly. "That is a full war fleet. They will not flee as the hunters did. They will fight to the end. There are too many for you." Hale turned his eyes on the captain. His voice was cold. "There are never too many." The words silenced the bridge. The human soldiers adjusted their weapons, standing ready. Outside the window, the Titan loomed like a beast waiting to strike. Its weapons began to glow once more. On the scanners, the enemy fleet moved closer, their numbers filling the screen. 20 ships, 40, more than 50. The alien crew shook with fear, but Commander Hale stood unmoving. His eyes never left the display. "This," he said quietly, "is why you should fear calling us." The Vayrans fell silent. They understood now. Humans had not come to save them. They had come to fight, to prove their power, to remind the galaxy why they were called Deathworlders. The scanners beeped. The enemy fleet had entered range. Hale raised his arm, activating his comms. His voice was steady, sharp, unshaken. "Titan, begin the purge." The alien crew held their breath. The stars outside began to burn. The second battle was about to begin. The human battleship Titan moved forward, its massive hull glowing with power. Energy surged across its armored wings, weapons charging with a low hum that vibrated even through the Veyran vessel. The alien crew watched in silence, their hearts racing as the scanners showed more than 50 enemy ships closing in. They had seen what the humans did to the hunters. But this fleet was larger, stronger, and ready for war. Could even the Titan survive? On the Veyran bridge, Captain Luro gripped the railing with trembling hands. Round him his crew whispered in panic. "Too many. It is impossible. We will all die here," but Commander Hale stood calm. His face showed no fear, no doubt. To him this was not hopeless. This was simply war. The speakers crackled as the human commander gave his order. "All weapons, fire!" The void roared. Beams of pure energy exploded from the Titan's cannons, brighter than suns. They tore through the first wave of enemy ships before the Vayrans could even blink. 4 cruisers vanished in an instant, reduced to fragments of burning metal. The enemy fleet returned fire. Dozens of missiles streaked across space. Laser beams cut through the darkness, all aimed at the Titan. The alien crew gasped as the screens filled with incoming fire. "They cannot block this. It is too much." But the Titan answered. Its shields flared alive. Vast walls of glowing light stretched across the ship's surface. Missiles struck, beams slammed, but nothing pierced. The attacks shattered like rain against stone. The humans did not falter. Commander Hale's voice came through the comms again, sharp as steel. "Forward batteries, erase them." The Titan's wings shifted. Gigantic cannons rotated, locking onto targets. A storm of projectiles launched, faster than the eye could follow. Each strike hit with brutal precision. Enemy destroyers broke apart, their engines exploding in brilliant fire. The Veyran crew watched in awe and terror. The Titan was not just fighting. It was hunting. The enemy tried to surround the human ship, spreading their fleet wide. But the Titan adjusted, its thrusters roaring. It spun through the battlefield like a predator among prey, every weapon firing in perfect rhythm. A heavy battleship fired its main cannon, a beam strong enough to vaporize a city. The aliens screamed as the beam cut across the void, straight toward the humans, but the Titan answered faster. Its central cannon lit up, glowing white-hot. With a single shot, it unleashed a beam that split the enemy battleship in two. The Vayrans stared as the massive vessel crumbled, its wreckage drifting in flames. First Officer Raal fell back into his seat, his voice shaking. That was their strongest ship. "Destroyed with one shot." Captain Luro said nothing. He could not find words. He could only stare at the impossible battle unfolding before his eyes. The enemy fleet pressed harder, sending wave after wave of fire. But every attack failed. The Titan advanced without slowing, without fear. Its shields glowed brighter, its weapons roared louder. "This is not war," whispered one of the Veyran crew. "This is punishment." Commander Hale stood at the center of the bridge, his cold eyes locked on the screens. His voice was calm, steady, unshaken. "Left wing cleared. Push through their center. Leave nothing." The Titan obeyed. Its thrusters flared, driving it straight into the heart of the enemy fleet. Cannons fired in every direction, each blast destroying another ship. Missiles exploded like stars, ripping through cruisers and escorts alike. The enemy fleet began to break. Some ships tried to retreat, turning their engines to flee. Others held their ground, desperate to slow the humans. None succeeded. The Vayrans could only watch as the most powerful fleet they had ever seen was torn apart before their eyes. Minutes passed like hours. The stars filled with fire, wreckage, and silence. One by one, the enemy ships fell until only a handful remained. The Titan gave them no mercy. Its final salvo burned across the void, shattering the last enemy vessels. Flames and debris drifted in every direction, painting the darkness with light. Then, silence. The battlefield was over. The Vayrans sat frozen on their bridge. Their enemy was gone, an entire war fleet destroyed by a single ship. But there was no joy, no celebration, only fear, because now the only ship left near them was the Titan. Commander Hale turned his gaze back to Captain Luro. His eyes were sharp, cold as ice. "Your pursuers are destroyed," he said simply. The captain forced himself to speak. His throat was dry, his voice heavy. We owe you everything. Without you, we would be dead." Hale's face did not change. "You called for help," we answered. "But understand this, when humans fight, we do not fight for kindness. We fight to end." The alien crew shivered. The meaning was clear. The humans had not come to save them. They had come to destroy whoever stood in their path. And now the Titan turned its weapons away from the battlefield and toward the small, fragile Veyran ship. The silence on the bridge was unbearable. Captain Luro's voice cracked as he whispered, "What? What will you do with us?" Commander Hale's reply was calm, final, and chilling. "You will learn the cost of calling us." The battlefield was quiet now. Only wreckage floated in the void. Broken hulls, shattered engines, fragments of ships that once carried proud warriors. Fires burned silently in the darkness, glowing like fading stars. And in the middle of it all stood the Titan, untouched, unbroken, and terrifying. The Veyran crew sat in silence. Their eyes stared at the screens, but their thoughts were frozen. They had just seen the impossible, a single human ship destroying an entire fleet. But now the guns of that same ship pointed toward them. Captain Luro felt his chest tighten. He had begged for help. He had prayed for survival, and the humans had answered. But now, standing in the shadow of the Titan, he realized his people might have traded one death for another. On the screen, Commander Hale's face appeared, cold, calm. His voice cut through the silence like a blade. "Your enemy is gone. Your ship is safe for now." The words gave no comfort. The crew waited, trembling, for what came next. Hale continued, "But nothing in the universe is free. You called for help. Now you must pay the price." First Officer Rahl leaned forward, his voice shaking. What price do you demand?" The human did not answer right away. He let the silence linger, let fear grow heavy in the alien hearts. Then he spoke. "You will serve." Gasps filled the Veyran bridge. "Serve? What did that mean?" Hale's eyes narrowed. The Veyran people called out into the void, desperate and weak. "You begged for a savior. But understand this, we are not saviors. We are conquerors, and those who summon us must kneel." Captain Luro's throat went dry. You mean to enslave us?" Hale shook his head slowly. "Not enslave, teach. You will learn our ways. You will fight in our wars. Your ships, your people, your worlds will serve humanity's empire." A cold wave swept over the crew. The captain could hear his officers whispering in fear, some even cursing his decision to send the signal. But the human was not finished. "Refuse," Hale said, his tone dark and final. "And your ship will be the next wreck floating here." The captain's heart pounded. He wanted to shout, to argue, to resist. But when he looked at the screen, he remembered the fleet they had faced. Dozens of ships stronger than his, all destroyed, all gone. What chance did one fragile vessel have against the Titan? "None." He bowed his head. His voice was heavy with defeat. We will serve." Hale gave no smile, no sign of victory, only a sharp nod. "Then you may live." For now, the communication ended. The Vayrans sat in silence once more, the weight of their choice pressing down on them. They were alive, but at what cost? The captain finally spoke, his words slow and bitter. "Remember this day. We thought we escaped death. But perhaps we only found a new master." On the human bridge, Commander Hale stood with his officers. None of them celebrated. None of them cheered. This was routine. One officer asked, "Commander, why spare them at all? Why not destroy their ship too?" Hale's eyes remained fixed on the screen, watching the alien vessel drift in the shadows of the Titan. His reply was calm. Fear is a stronger chain than death. They will carry our name across the stars. They will spread the truth humans answer calls, but not as friends. As rulers, the crew nodded in silence. They understood. Back on the Veyran ship, whispers spread among the crew. Some cursed the humans. Some cursed their captain. Others sat in stunned silence, realizing what fate now awaited their people. First Officer Raal turned to his captain, his voice broken. "We should never have sent that signal." Luro's hands trembled as he stared at the wreckage outside. "We had no choice. Our enemies would have destroyed us. At least now. We live." Raal shook his head. "Do we? Or are we already dead, just waiting to be buried under a human flag?" No one answered. The stars outside glimmered, silent and cold, as the Titan loomed ever closer. Hours later, both ships began their journey. The Veyrans followed the humans, powerless to resist. The engines of the Titan burned bright, leading them into a future neither side fully spoke of. But every alien on that ship understood one thing. They had summoned something far worse than their enemy fleet. They had called the humans. And the humans had answered, not with mercy, not with friendship, but with dominance. The price of their survival was slavery. And the story of that day would echo across galaxies as a warning: never call humans for help.